Good evening. Welcome to Good Guy Sports. I'm Jackson Gerke, alongside our co-host Blake Gerke. Blake Lomberger will be with us shortly. He will he will be he has some technical difficulties that he to deal with, but whenever we bring him on, we will let you know and have it and have it for you on Good Guy Sports. And I'm also joined by Mike Roby for our for one of our current second panhandle of our co's who are with us right now. Great to be with you guys. So before we deep dive and get to all of that, for our show, we will talk some we will talk and get into some FedEx Cup playoff golf and U.S. Open tennis a little later in the show, a little later on our show. But we are going to start with some college football that we just that
It's
we
back.
yes it's as yes, you can
Here
definitely feel
comes
the air, the
Saturday
passion,
night.
the sport, and and the sport of itself. It's here. You can definitely yeah, you can definitely feel it, and you can definitely see you can definitely feel and hear and see the vibe, as you can as you can tell. It's the sport and all that much we love is officially here, as as believe it or not, the sport has already gotten underway from last week, as believe it or not, great win last week from Georgia Tech, from taking this game down to what would be the last possession of the game, and possibly the final few seconds of the game winning field goal, which surprisingly nobody even saw this coming, that Georgia Tech dueled and beat out Florida State in the last seconds of a game-winning field goal, which nobody really saw coming. That coming last weekend.
It was a great game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Absolutely,
was.
last Saturday in Dublin, Ireland. As it turns out that they really pay money for this to do this annual traditional game out there, which makes it very special. And to me, what stood out to Georgia Tech, yeah, it went down to the last possession of the game. I mean, every what to me every possession really matters. So it just came down to who had the ball last. It just went back and forth down the trenches, and just really to me it just really come down to the last possession of the game, and really it was up for grabs on the line. It looked like to me, the way it played out. So I think that, to me, I just thought that, if Georgia Tech were to not make the field goal, they would possibly be heading into overtime. Well, thanks in large part for Georgia Tech, for one of their star kickers, who set it up for what would be the greatest moment of his life, kicking the game-winning field goal, which I thought really made things special for this uh for this Georgia Tech team. And nobody saw this coming. But entering into week zero, Florida State, well, they were you look at them, they were undefeated, he, heading into from last season. But since Georgia Tech just had other ideas, and just somehow just sealed it, and just kind of kicked the game-winning field goal, it's just really hard to put into words and even believe and say that. But Florida State now falls into 0-1 in the start of this season, which is hard to put your head around it. But it's happened, and it brings me to believe that Florida State did finish last year undefeated, and yet missing out the college football playoff, thanks in large part for a controversy of Alabama, of Alabama just edging them out, and putting him in the Rose Bowl instead of Florida State taking them in that spot from last year's college football playoff final ranking show, that it really turns out that Florida State just really didn't show to me. My thoughts were that they didn't show me a lot of respect and and just opinions and their and belief for this team, and yet they find themselves in a 0-1 start record right now, and it's not looking great, although it's still a long season. But you got to think and wonder that Florida State now falls to 0-1. I mean, think about it. If they were to lose a couple of games in the later part of the season, depending on how the schedule plays out, that they would find themselves in the 12th position to maybe squeeze in for the last spot of the college football expanded playoff. But now that they are, but now he's got to think about the question marks of how Florida State never got into the college football playoff from last season for the last year that they had, and heading into this year. You just got to think, how did this happen? And nobody even thought this wasn't going to happen until it did. So with that, now what it appears for the winners of the ACC front runners now looks to be the winner of the Miami Florida game, which should be which also should be a great game to watch. Then you have UNC, and then possibly Clemson, who are the next best free teams in the ACC to win the title. So other than Florida State just possibly being left out of the ACC conference championship game, but to me it's just a little bit too early for me to say that. But so with that, I want to turn to the panel and ask and get your thoughts and opinions about it. And I want to start off with Blake Gerke. So Blake, your thoughts on the hot takes and the opinions that I made about the start of the Florida State season so far this year.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting start for sure. But you mentioned Florida State might be, not completely out of the picture, but they're going to have to climb out of a hole in the ACC. But we can't remember as well the biggest matchup that we have tomorrow is featuring Clemson against the number one ranked team in the and with UGA. So if we expect the results to go as most people think, then Clemson is also going to find themselves in an 0-1 hole in that ACC, right? So all of a sudden, the two teams you thought would be the best in that division are starting out the season 0-1. So it kind of comes back down to a strength of schedule and finishing the season better than you started kind of thing. And obviously these early games, you don't want to overreact too much. And a lot of these schools purposely schedule their first couple games against a tougher opponent. That way, if they do have a narrow loss, maybe the playoff committee will give them a bit of relief in the long run. But to that point, if Clemson loses against Georgia, which I suspect they will, that will obviously be a much tougher strength of schedule loss versus Florida State losing against an unranked team, Tech, in Dublin. So that's certainly a factor that they're going to have to deal with. And you're right. It's a bad loss for Florida State. Like I don't think this Georgia Tech team is going to really get up to too much this year, despite that win. So ultimately, at the end of the year, it might look like a worse loss.
Agreed. Yeah, and you mentioned Georgia taking on Clemson. That game will be played in Atlanta as they would always say, it's the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Like I say, every year is what they call it. Having lived ourselves in Atlanta for many years, having know much about it. So you mentioned about the Clemson Tigers. Well, I look at it this way. So you have the 14 ranked Clemson Tigers going up against the number one team in the land, the Georgia Bulldogs. And you always wonder if Clemson Tigers, if you see this Clemson Tigers team show up and somehow shock the Georgia Bulldogs in front of their home crowd out there in the peach state of Atlanta. I mean, if they were going to upset the Georgia Bulldogs and just show up and find a way to win um against the number one ranked team in the number one ranked team, Georgia Bulldogs team. I mean, that would be that. I mean, that would just be a huge statement win for the Clemson Tigers if they were to pull this off. And then you think about and you think about the loser of this game. Well, then I think Georgia's going to be just finding themselves in just a critical hole, tricky situation, and just really going to be a tough start for them because you look at their schedule. They have to go to Texas and Austin, and then they have to, and then after that they they have to go to they have to go to Kentucky, Alabama, and after that Ole Miss and Tennessee and in Auburn. I mean, talk about their schedule. It's going to be really tough and tricky for them. So if I'm a Georgia fan, I would just be pretty nervous and just pretty scared. The scheduled the way I look at it.
I don't know, but ultimately, I don't know if Mike disagrees, but like I still think Georgia is the best team in the country, and they're 2 touchdown favorites against Clemson for a reason, right? So
Yeah. But I'm going to go back to the Georgia Tech. I was most impressed with their offensive line. I mean, they took it to them. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think they gained 196 yards on the ground. So, I mean, that was, so they busted up the ACC. Is going to be wide open this year as far as what the team is.
do you think there's some troubling signs then for Florida State? It wasn't just a fluke, you don't think?
No, I think there probably is. I mean, you certainly got Clemson and UNC, but now, I don't know. I think Georgia Tech may surprise some people, particularly if they play, they continue to play like they did last Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. It could be a much more competitive conference than we thought.
Now, I think Clemson and Georgia, I mean, Clemson's supposed to lose. So if they do lose, I don't think it's going to hurt them that much. But here's the thing. Georgia has some injuries. And they potentially have some suspensions coming. And that may hurt them, particularly the offensive line. And Clemson's got a very good secondary. The other thing is, I think I may be wrong, but I think Clemson has lost their opening game the last 2 seasons. So I don't think their coach wants to lose again on opening day. So just to put that in there. But
if they don't want to lose, why'd they schedule Georgia week 1?
Well, this is true.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they schedule it because of
get a nice paycheck out of it.
TV money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But
I think you're totally right. Like Georgia has way more to lose than Clemson does, right?
And is this going to be the season for Cade Klubnik to become a star?
Right.
If he does, watch out. They're going to, Death Valley will be resurrected. So it's going to be a tough game. I got a sneaking suspicion that Clemson might pull it out.
Yeah, it is interesting conversation, kind of the possible UGA, bust potential and like whether or not they're driving off a cliff or if they're haven't even gotten to the peak of the cliff yet in terms of their dominance. And obviously like they've been the best team, and maybe it's just me kind of being bored of the same teams winning every time. But I do think there is an argument to say with this new expanded SEC, and Georgia maybe finding it harder to reload talent in this new sort of landscape with college football, where perhaps the elite schools, maybe they're always going to dominate, but maybe it won't be the same one every single year. So Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Jackson was mentioning Georgia fans might be a little more less optimistic than they were the past couple of years, given the schedule. Like you said, a couple of good schools entering the fray, maybe toughening up that schedule a little bit. So, yeah, you never know if Clemson. I mean, we saw. Yeah, I think Mike mentioned they lost the first game last year, which was obviously against over in Durham against the Blue Devils. So they definitely are not going to come out cold. You would assume, given that fact. So if they, who knows, if the Tigers catch them cold, it could be a bit of a tricky year for the Bulldogs. But that being said, I still wouldn't pick against Georgia just given the talent, and plus they are basically playing at home. So
yeah.
I don't know,
I'll
Jack.
I'll go out on a limb and
You
say
picking Clemson? Okay.
Clemson by 3.
Clemson by 3. Yeah. I think it'll be closer than, I think the spread is about 14, like I mentioned, 2 touchdown favorites. I think it'll be, I'll say 6 or 7. So I think Clemson will cover, but yeah, I'll still pick Georgia as to win, I think, Jack.
Yeah, I agree. I think Clemson will win by at least a hair. Let's just call it.
You think Clemson's gonna win?
I think Clemson's going to win just a slight edge.
Wow. So we got two Clemsons here.
I think it'll be close, but it'll be bare, but it will be really close. Just
so what? So why are you picking Clemson? What do you think is going to go wrong for the Bulldogs?
well, like you said, I think Georgia's going to just have dealing with too many injuries, suspensions.
Yeah, it's a bit banged up, coming out cold. You think?
Plus, I think if their defense and quarterback stays healthy, led by the secondary, and I think if they make the right plays and make less mistakes, then I think the Clemson Tigers will somehow find a way to win.
Okay, fair enough. Those are some bold picks, gentlemen. So we'll see. Could be looking very smart next weekend. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. What other matchups do you have your eyes on this weekend, Jack?
As for the other game that I have my eye on, the Sunshine Showdown between the Miami Hurricanes, 19 ranked, against the Florida Gators. This team has a bunch of this game has a bunch of storylines that I'm keeping my track and eye on. The loser of this game will find themselves possibly in the coaching of a hot seat, meaning that Coach Mario Cristobal and a Florida counterpart, Billy Napier, be in the spotlight. Meaning that let's say if Billy Napier doesn't get over the hump and somehow find a way to not win the big game and still not find a way to get it done and never accomplish to achieve one of his goals is, then that's going to be a tough ask and a big and just a really big question mark, and just really not great signs for your program and for this fan base, given the fact that this team's just shown much more patience and just not really getting a lot of respect from this team. And I just think that as much as their quarterback Cam Ward and Jalen Mertz, to give them the fact that as much as has proven it for what they've got for this game, I think, to me, it's really going to come down to some big critical plays, and then I think that and I think the spotlight is really on Miami quarterback Cam Ward, and I think that he can believe in himself, that he can find a way and silence all the critics and just get their game plan going and prove himself that they can find a way to go into the swamp and beat the Gators and at their place, and Miami just showed me to believe that they're going to be the better team than the Gators are for my opinion. So I just think that to me, I just think to me it'll be it'll come down to probably a few possessions in this game, but to me, I just think that you look at Florida's schedule, it's not looking great because for Miami, like you said, looks pretty easy, looks pretty manageable. The way I look at it, I mean, they will easily beat up beat Ball State, and then Florida A&M. They will beat those teams pretty easily. Then after that, they got Virginia Tech. They can beat they can beat that team at home at Coral Gables. And then of course they're on the road at Cal, Louisville, home against Florida State. That's going to be a pick 'em game, tricky one right there. And then home against Duke, and then at Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and then close out the season at Syracuse. That schedule to me looks pretty manageable, but if I look at the but if I look at the Florida perspective on their schedule, it's just it's just it's just not looking great and tough. Work rate just basically just reminds you of climbing on a cliff, and it's just not. It means that there's a touch of strength, and you just got to really
Don't you think we kind of always overhype Miami every year though? Like I could easily see them losing this game, and it's in Gainesville, right? So
yes.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of Miami fans there just because they have a big
Oh
fan
yeah,
base.
oh yeah, totally,
But
totally.
Florida have a big fan base too, and they're going to make it as a hostile of an atmosphere as they can. Obviously, Florida's not really a great team.
They will.
And Miami is slight favorites away from home.
I think this is a must-win for Florida. If Florida loses at home opening day with the last couple seasons they've had, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, especially against an in-state rival, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and to add to that, Mike, if you so let's say if you did lose to Miami, then really it's just going to be it's just going to be a bad and tough loss for Billy Napier and for this program. And what, like you said, Mike, yet looking at the schedule, it's really tough the way I'm looking at it. You got to play A&M. You're at Mississippi State. You got to go to Tennessee up in Neyland. Then you gotta host Kentucky, which, by the way, has their number against Florida. Then you have to play Georgia and Jacksonville at the world's largest outdoor stadium, and then you have to go to and then you have to travel to Austin to take on the Texas Longhorns. After that, you got that part of the schedule gets really where that stretch of the schedule gets really tricky.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that Florida's got the hardest schedule.
Yes, because you got to go to because you got LSU and Ole Miss, and you have to end your season at Florida State, which really is just it's tough and hard, whatever you look at it, if you're a Florida fan. So I get it, but the strength of schedule just really isn't your friend or your enemy. But yeah, it's Florida's schedule just looks tough and grind and just very tough, and you have to deal with all these opponents, and the way I look at it, I just see Billy Napier on the hot seat being fired as head coach for the Florida football program, given the fact that they finished with more losses on this program than I think that Billy Napier's most likely going to get fired as head coach for that program and missed out for a bowl game yet again.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Yeah, it's a bit gotta give the guy at least one game before we fire him. But it's a bold prediction, man. It's a bold prediction, and yeah, I think that will definitely be a 1-possession game, and I think the line would say that as well. So, what about the I guess the other big game that we got to look at is Notre Dame versus Texas A&M, right? I think
that's a big one.
It's a big one, and obviously
that one is under the lights at Cal.
under the lights.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame.
Mike Elko's first game
at head coach after previously serving as our head coach for the Duke Blue Devils. Now gets his shot and chance of his debut as A&M head coach as they take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at
College Station.
College Station, yes, and what should be a hostile environment down in College Station.
Yeah, and you have Mike Elko and Riley Leonard on the same field again. Only
That's right.
Riley Leonard is transferred and will be Notre Dame's quarterback.
Maybe a friendly handshake before the game, but after that, there's no love lost, right?
There's no love lost. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. The other interesting on this game is LSU's offensive coordinator last year, who scored 42 points against Texas A&M. Of course, Jaden Daniels was quarterbacking, is now the new offensive coordinator for Notre Dame. But Notre Dame has a very green offensive line. They're going to be starting 2 freshmen and 3 sophomores on their offensive line. So,
yeah, I think I just in my head I just have a hard time imagining Notre Dame going into College Station on a Saturday night game and getting a win. That's just, especially against a Texas A&M team that, granted, they're not probably like not title favorites or anything, but they're a preseason ranked team.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just have this picture in my head of Notre Dame kind of, being more bark than bite. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe that's just kind of the reputation that they have, rightly or unrightly earned. Perhaps other people would argue with you on that, but yeah, listen, I think they've been building up this this Notre Dame program, and they've getting in different quarterbacks, and we'll see how Riley Leonard does. And obviously they've put a lot of trust in him. Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame coach, obviously sees him as being a big part of this team and a big reason why they can have success. So it's going to be a real statement win if they're able to go in there and get a result. Obviously not a easy place to play, is it?
No. Well, I think Elko knows Leonard's weaknesses, and with pretty much a brand new offensive line,
right?
I'd be looking for Texas A&M to throw some stunts on defense and really get to Leonard.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think they will. So I think Aggies win this one.
I mean, you figure it's got to be an advantage having sort of a defensive head coach who saw this quarterback every day, then going up against him. Obviously you don't want to overrate that, but it certainly has to be. Maybe that isn't the reason Texas A&M will win, but it certainly has to be a factor in that game. Alongside, Texas A&M being a tough place to play, and they're no slouches themselves. So, yeah, I think that's gonna be a tight one, and I think I'm going with A&M just by a hair, by a field goal. I want to say in that one.
Yeah, I would agree.
Hey, sorry we couldn't take it too long, but great to have you back on Good Guys on the Good Guys Sports Show on with us, Blake.
Yeah, Jack, how's it going? Got a little crazy upset. I'm sure you guys already talked about the clash in Ireland. Football's off to a good start, man. I love to see it.
Yeah,
that's we were
excellent way to kick off the season, right?
Yeah, that's where we were just talking about. Now we're just wanting to get your thoughts on what of our takes are for the for the college football season that's already underway. We want to share your thoughts on what you've seen so far for this college football season.
Well, just go ahead and pick up where you guys. We'll pick up where you guys left off. So, what's the next game we're picking, Jack?
Yeah.
Well,
What about this USC versus LSU game, Jackson? That's
yeah,
another
we just
ranked
talked
ranked
about
matchup.
so we just talked about Clemson in Georgia, Miami in Florida. We just covered Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Now we're about to talk about USC and LSU. So that's
Where's that game at, Jack?
That'll be at LSU.
Oh, is it a night game?
That game will take place at the Model Vegas Kickoff Classic.
I think it's in
Oh,
Vegas,
it's in
actually.
Vegas. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
It'll take place in the Allegiant Stadium in Vegas.
Neutral site game, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
LSU's slight favorites in that one. So
I was gonna say, well, I'll tell you what. What's who's USC's coach? What's this guy's name again?
Lincoln Riley, former Oklahoma head coach.
I think the fans are a little disappointed with what quarterback they had last year with the record they ended up with, and they really gave the house to get him, plus another house, plus a little more. So
A couple of pools.
it's time for Riley to perform with all they've given him. So I don't know anything about the recruiting class. I'm gonna let you guys dive into that, but LSU doesn't lose at home when they're playing at their place. I don't know how they do playing at somebody else's place. So I think Chip Kelly runs a good show, a tight ship. I think he didn't have the talent he's at Notre Dame. He's got
Brian
Kelly.
Sorry,
Ron Kelly.
different Kelly.
Sorry. But I don't know. We'll see. I think Brian Kelly. I think he does a good job coaching. So I think LSU is going to shine pretty soon.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point. I think the clock's ticking in Southern California there for Lincoln Riley, and obviously he's brought in some big name players. #1 pick in the draft last year in Caleb Williams, and like you said, Blake, maybe the headlines and the draft results were better than the actual on-field results there in Pasadena. So yeah, I mean, I think the fan base and alumni and the administration there probably have reason to be a little bit on edge on some of the happenings there. And obviously this will be USC's in the Big Ten now, I believe. Is that correct,
Big
Jack?
Ten.
Big Ten?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are both.
So
it's both USC and UCLA, Oregon,
Washington.
and Washington.
Right.
That's right. They all joined
And
the
Oregon.
Big Ten.
yeah. So the schedule's not going to get any easier for them than it was last year, is it? So there's definitely
USC should have stayed in the Pac-12. They could have won the Pac-12 this year.
Yeah, or maybe they should have done like a Notre Dame and gone independent, so you can just make your own schedule or something. But it's going to be interesting. I think there might be trouble in paradise in Pasadena, Jack, and I think LSU is going to beat them pretty bad, to be honest.
That's not a bad way to. I wouldn't agree with you there. That's really Really, I don't disagree with you there. I think LSU, given the fact that they're in the SEC, to your point of when you talk about Big Ten, now that you just added just Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, which is really which I think makes the sport more exciting that way than ever before. I think that LSU, to me, being probably the better team, I give them at least a advantage for me to win that game.
I think just picking the more physical SEC team in these games is usually the way to go. Neutral site as well, maybe closer to LA, but I mean, I'm not sure that makes a huge difference. Yeah,
it's Vegas.
Exactly. Yeah, anything can happen there, right?
Yeah, LSU by 10.
There you go. Can't disagree with that.
Let's move on to our next and last game. That will be on Labor Day night against Florida State, as we talked about during the beginning of our show, where I had a hot take on them and just my in my opinion of it on the start of the show. now get to travel back home from Ireland, back in Tallahassee, for their first home game of the season, taking on Boston College. Now I expect Florida State to win this game, even though Boston College is just not a football program. Let's just say that, other than Matt Ryan being the quarterback there. But besides from that, I think that um I think that Florida State will win this game pretty easily. I think I have Florida State by 15 in that one. So I don't know if you guys are picking Boston College in that game. I'm not. I think main the panel disagrees that they're not picking Boston College. So what do you guys thoughts on this matchup?
I don't. Florida State will win this game. I don't see them losing at home, particularly to Boston College. I'm not sure
Yeah.
Boston College has had a team since Doug Flutie played.
Yeah, they should probably stick to field hockey or something. But yeah, especially coming off a loss as well. They're going to be extra motivation at home to win that game.
Yeah,
So
I mean, if they were to lose, to go 0-2 to start this season, yeah,
that would be probably they would declare a state of emergency in Tallahassee, I think.
Yeah, I think
It
so.
would just yeah, trust me, it would not be. Yeah, I would be shocked and embarrassing if that were to happen. But like you guys said, I think Florida State's going to bounce back in this game anyway. So nothing really to add there.
Yeah.
What were Flutie Flakes? Were Flutie Flakes just cornflakes rebranded?
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, they were.
Okay. Guys, this might be crazy, but am I crazy that I was putting Boston College and Georgia Tech in the same category? Is Georgia Tech better than Boston? I mean, I kind of put both those teams at, easy wins for Florida State. Well, am I crazy?
I mean, we were talking about it earlier, and we're trying to talk it out if maybe the loss against Tech for Florida State was a fluke, or is it more of a sign that the ACC might actually be stronger than we think. I might want a bit more data before I make that conclusion, but I think we'll have more answers after we see this round of games tomorrow or Saturday.
On any given Saturday, anybody can win.
But it's a great movie too, or the sequel at least.
Yeah, but last Saturday's game, Florida State, they played well. They didn't make too many mistakes, yet Georgia Tech beat them. It wasn't that Florida State lost the game. It's that they got beat.
Wow, that's a good point.
Georgia Tech, their offensive line was awesome that day.
Well, they with the triple option, they got to be good, and if they are good, it's hard to stop them.
Yeah. So, also Georgia Tech's kicker was from Ireland. That had to help. Yeah.
That's awesome. So was the fan base going for Georgia Tech?
No, well, there was a lot of Seminole fans.
That was a big stadium, right? That's what 80,000 capacity or 60,000 capacity stadium.
Yeah.
How many showed up at the game? They sell out?
I don't know. I bet they sold out though.
It seemed like they cheered for everything that happened. It just seemed like they were really, really into that game.
Yeah. But there was a lot of there were a lot of fans for both Georgia Tech and Seminoles, but I think a lot of Seminole fans showed up.
Did the kid that from Ireland that played rugby, did he get drafted? I forgot to follow that. That was, setting the right, like he was so fast. Mm-hmm. You remember the story? Do y'all know if he got drafted or not?
Didn't the Bills pick up an ex-rugby player? But I think he was from Scotland.
I think the Chiefs have like a Welsh rugby player on their roster this year. I know about. Yeah,
that's it, Blake. That's it. That's the guy I'm talking about.
He's like a special teams. They're hoping he's like a special teams expert kind of thing. Yeah, I think the kicker. I think it was like the punter for Tech, I believe, who was Irish.
Okay.
But yeah, kind of the specialist positions mostly. Any more college games to cover, Jack? Or we're on to our next topic now.
Well, I think really my biggest of a storyline um um that I wanted to keep my eye on is a new head coaches that just hires that they just took place this offseason. We are talking Kevin DeBoer from Alabama to fill his shoes in for the long time 10-year coach of Nick Saban, who now nobody saw coming and surprised unexpectedly retired because of the large part because of the hard not to keep up with all the NIL and transfer portal stuff, which I feel like has been really becoming a factor in today's world of college football. And then also Sean Moore, who for the Michigan head coach, who was on Harbaugh's staff, that that was just promoted from this year. That I that we just mentioned.
Yeah, definitely some new faces coming around this year in college football. That's for sure. Yeah, bit of a transition year.
Not sure if I'm forgetting anybody else, but
Yeah, I mean the main one is obviously Coach DeBoer down there in Tuscaloosa, and kind of seeing how they get on. I think I would imagine the first big test that he will face, probably not this week. They actually do have Georgia on their schedule as well, Alabama. So
right.
later in September. So just
So
get a couple of wins under his belt and kind of get the fans on board is really the ask for Coach DeBoer right now. So
yeah, so we got Mike Elko, Manny Diaz, Bill O'Brien from Boston College, Brian Gingerell and Jed Fisher from Washington, Will Yates from Houston. That's pretty much what I think of. So yeah, out of the top tens from Indiana, St. Jose State, Deshaun Foster from UCLA. That's a pretty interesting hire. Jeff Libby from Mississippi State. That's yeah. So list goes on and on, but yeah, Sharon Moore. Given the fact that really that a large part because of of how Jim Harbaugh and JJ McCarthy and and then really all their starting departures like Blake Corum and those guys just really left for this program, and now you go from offensive coordinator to promoted as your first season as head coach, which is great, but now you got to realize, can you take the next step like you did when you had Jim Harbaugh and JJ McCarthy, which I feel like to me is a big question mark, given the fact that what I mean by that is that can you can you keep the streak going and somehow until you get to the Ohio State game, which Ohio State just like finds a way to, which to me just finds ways to which to me finds a way that they made a big, which to me the Buckeyes to me just found a way to make a big splash in the transfer portal with one of their star players, except for their including their star quarterback, which to me is the biggest question mark of all this team. But if you're Sharon Moore and for this Wolverines staff, can you find a way to keep the streak going against the game against Ohio State, which I think we will all be fascinating to see, depending on how the season really plays out for them.
Well, it's going to be a fun season.
Well, I'll tell you guys what, Jack. The X factor is they don't know what defense they're going to be facing anymore.
their sign stealer is gone. I don't know if you've seen I've seen the Netflix documentary, the Untold series. I think it's called Sign Stealer, about Michigan's guy. It's a fascinating documentary into the world of these guys that would try to figure out, and it was legal to steal signs, and they just took it a little too far. You couldn't videotape at other teams' games. You couldn't steal in that way. But I think because of that, now they do helmet communications. They can call the plays in through the helmet, so you don't have to send the signs anymore. Is that right, guys? It'll be the first year in college. We won't see the guys on the sideline sending the signs in for the quarterback.
Yeah, so I know they changed a few of the rules this year. So they allowed one player on offense to have a direct line of communication with the play caller or head coach or whoever. So to your point, yeah, I think some of the alleged stuff that was happening, I think the NCAA or whoever makes these rules kind of put in some more of the modern communications. Obviously, we see that in the NFL with the quarterbacks that have the headsets and the helmets so they can talk and stuff like that. So, college football is trying to become a bit more professional in a lot of ways, really, that we've seen. And that's, I think, the signs and play calling is one of the things that'll change this year. So definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. They even do that in baseball.
That's right.
Catcher and the pitcher
with the hats. Yeah. So
yeah.
We'll see if that tries to
Yankee pitcher last night had problems with his headset.
Oh, okay.
Interesting. Kept fussing with it.
Yeah.
Of course, Dylan Cruz took him to the yard his first time up at bat.
Oh yeah.
Mike, did you see the John Smoltz interview about how he would call as a pitcher, he would call his pitches? It was about where he caught the ball, or where he had his glove when he caught the pitch back. If it was right side up, it was like a fastball. If it was upside down, it was like a curveball. If he touched his nose at any time, it was a different pitch. And so he would call his pitches to the catcher based off the way when he got the ball and what he did after he got the ball. Isn't that wild?
Wow, that is wild. Nobody would have picked up on that. That's for sure.
He's one of the few pitchers that calls his own pitches, right? They gave the freedom to call their own pitches.
Well, it's Smoltz. I mean,
yeah. Pretty wild.
That is. All right.
So
what do you got next, Jack?
All right. So I wanted to ask you guys if any of you in the panel are keeping up with the FedEx Cup playoff and the Georgia Championship with golf. Obviously you have Scotty Scheffler and Collin Morikawa are tied at 8 under par. And then in tennis, the U.S. Open already underway. We have so many matches to choose from up there in Flushing, New York, up in Queens, that is, that you got so many tennis tournaments up there to watch, which to me are just hard to keep up. You just don't know which one you want to feel like watching because you got so many options. I don't even know which match I want to watch or choose from. There's like so many to choose from and watch, but what stood out to me is Novak Djokovic is still alive and still in it, as well as Coco Gauff, if she can find a way to defend her title. But obviously, we all know what happened this year because she's had so much drama on the tennis court from arguing at the chair umpire guy, just really some plays that she loved to have back, but she never. But so far, her summer just been kind of an up and down roller coaster season that she just kind of went up down, down season for her, and she just couldn't get past, or just never got past the medal round in the Olympics and never won a gold medal, and she never won the French Open or Wimbledon, and she's just somehow, to me, she was just struggling than she was last year, and I just think that she just couldn't find her way to get over the hump, and that's just what really stood out to me in tennis. But so far on the men's side, Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz are pretty much the big names that really stood out to me. And that Carlos Alcaraz, the defending 2022 U.S. Open champion, Novak Djokovic, same can be said for him, but I feel like to me in the men's tournament, it's going to really come down to Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. But don't forget about Naomi Osaka. She was back this year, coming back from her absence from last season. I wouldn't count her out. She's definitely talented, but Carlos Alcaraz to me is really what stood me out so far in this tournament. But if he somehow finds a way to get it done and win another US Open title and possibly beat Novak Djokovic again, that'll be something, and I'll definitely keep my eye on that. But as far as golf goes, with Scottie Scheffler, now tied 8 even, but now it's Scottie Scheffler and Collin Morikawa now at 15. But now Scottie Scheffler leads 15 under, and Collin Morikawa now 9 under right now. So
Is that before or after or including the starting strokes?
I think that's like right after the starting.
Or is that just for this round?
Just for this round?
Okay, because
So
the
Is there
PGA,
is there a different format for this tournament?
yeah, the PGA Tour Championship is different. They do a starting strokes. So let me back up. The top 30 players on the for the FedEx Cup are invited to the PGA Tour Championship. The number one player, which is Scottie Scheffler, he starts out at -10.
Yep, and then Xander Schauffele is
Xander
-8.
Schauffele starts out at -8.
Yep.
And then it goes down, and then all the until like the last 5 guys all start at even par. Because what they want to do is make sure that the winner of the PGA Tour Championship is also the winner of the FedEx Cup. And so they have this starting strokes, almost as if they're seeding the players. And then, unlike other tournaments, they all 30 play all 4 rounds. And they don't, there's no cut in this. So that's why I was asking. I think this is the only tournament that does it because it's at the tail end of the year.
And how about that prize?
Other than the cup that the US and the European team will play.
How about that prize, Mike? 25 mil. Not
25
too shabby,
million. Yeah.
Crazy, yeah.
The guy who comes in 5th gets 5 million.
Jeez,
which
goodness.
is more than any of the other tournaments. The guy who comes in 30th gets $550,000.
Wow.
So he's getting $500,000.
Well, and the guy that got that last year did a marathon. Remember, he broke the record he played speed golf because he knew he wasn't going to finish, and he just see if he could beat the fastest round of golf ever played.
Yeah,
and he beat it, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
and then he walked away with a $500,000 check.
Yeah,
it's not too bad.
That's not too bad. Being the cat, I like to be the caddy of the winner.
He's done quick. Yeah, true.
He gets 10%. If he gets the usual 10%, that's not bad.
No.
Yeah. I should have learned how to play golf.
Well,
Matt Kuchar's caddy was catching a little bit of flack for Matt Kuchar was catching a little bit of flack for not giving his caddy 10%. I don't know if you guys heard about that story, but that's where the 10% came up recently.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Wait, did you guys talk about the World Series Little League baseball game? Are we talking about that yet?
And we haven't talked about the Little League. Yeah.
I can tell you this, Mike. If you and Aunt Lori have ever catched or watched any of it, or you guys watched any of it, that Florida beat Chinese Taipei in a 2-1 walk-off victory. If you guys were able to catch the highlights or watch any of it.
Yeah, I saw the bunt. He let the Florida kid lay down a perfect bunt down the first baseline, and the pitcher caught it and threw it to first, and nobody was there. I thought, man, that's like something I'd see at Nationals Park, but
You want
uh,
to talk about blind discipline? I mean, it just makes you wonder how many times they practice that for
yeah,
him to not even look. Just
yeah,
automatic. I pick that
it
up, I
just,
throw it.
yeah. I mean, that was, oh my goodness. You had a feel for him.
What a game. What an
Yeah,
absolute game. What a defensive and pitching.
yeah.
Stay up watching the Little League World Series because it makes me, I enjoy watching non-perfection and people that would play like me. If not, it's fun to watch people miss fly balls. Like you don't know if they're going to catch it. And it's fun to watch.
Yeah. That's why minor leagues are fun to watch.
And maybe next year,
Agreed.
Mike, maybe you and Aunt Lori and your grandkids should try to make plans for next year, if not the year after, to try to ride down together and make your own cardboards and ride down on that down that hill together. You, that might I think that you and Aunt Lori will have a great time at that.
It'd be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I can get some wax paper to make it faster.
There you go. There you go. I like the sound of that. So we mentioned about US Open tennis. Is there anything that you guys have anything that you guys have stood out from what you've seen so far? Obviously, I've mentioned Carlos Alcaraz and Novak Djokovic still remaining unbeaten, along with Tsitsipas and Ben Shelton are still what should be a must see. Get your popcorn ready. Must watch match tournament event, which I feel like should be a very fascinating to watch for both sides, for they're both Americans. But obviously with the Tour Championship that taking place in Eastlake in Atlanta. Obviously with the U.S. Open at Flushing Meadows up in Queens, up right outside of New York City. So anything for those particular sports um, that you should keep your eye on so far that you have seen so far building and winning up for the both sports and those two tournaments.
Well, I just wanted to mention, I mean, Coco Gauff is only 20 years old.
Mhm.
So she's got a long future ahead of her. So to make it as far as she has made it for as long as she has, I mean, she'll be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on the men's side, it's like you mentioned, Jack, it's hard to look past Alcaraz and Djokovic right now. Perhaps you can make a case for Yannick Sinner. He's obviously had a couple of interesting issues happen with him recently, but looks like he's going to be playing in this tournament. But maybe some of the headlines might actually deter from his play in this tournament. But I put my money on Alcaraz. I think him losing out on that gold medal match to Djokovic is going to give him a bit of extra motivation, and I think he's going to really want to lay down a marker here in here in New York. So I think Alcaraz is a good bet for on the men's side. Not rocket science, breaking news there, picking Alcaraz, but I think he's just the best all around player right now.
I would
Yeah, I
agree.
agree with Blake.
Go ahead, Blake.
Oh, I agree with Blake. I mean, that Alcaraz it's gonna be fun to watch him for the next 15 years. That guy's gonna go on a tear.
Yeah, it'll be
Yeah,
curious to
it's
see
gonna
if
be fun.
anybody's able to kind of keep up with him. Obviously, Djokovic is able to match him right now, but he's obviously long in the tooth as well, Djokovic. So I'll be curious to see if Alcaraz is set up for a decade of domination himself, or if somebody's gonna be able to match him. That's definitely a big question mark in the world of tennis right now.
All
Any
right. So
last minute thoughts before we wrap up here, Jack?
before we call it a day, before we run out of our show, one thing that I want to talk about without leaving our sports that I want to mention is, did you and happen to catch any of the open ceremony or any of the sports of the Paralympics? Because from what I hear, the Olympic Games in Paris are never over without talking to the without talking to the Paralympics of how cool and inspiring those athletes are with different disabilities they have, which watching it, realizing how so cool it is to watch, especially for us human beings. It's just really cool and fascinating to watch. If you guys have ever to catch or watch any of it or tuned into to end some of it lately.
I saw
that-
some of the swimming today, and that was good. That was fun to watch.
yeah.
Yeah, and obviously we know that that pretty much in the last Olympic Games, regular Olympics that were that they already took place there back in July, that we found out that pretty much the U.S. dominated type of China, but obviously the one thing that we didn't point out is that it was dominated by women. So that was the other thing that really stood out to me. But besides from that, you mentioned about swimming, Mike, and that brought me to asking, did you and and will you swim more laps than Blake Lineberger's swimming up in his apartment and will Blake Lineberger beat out Uncle Mike in a swim meet?
I don't know. It depends
I
on
got
if it's a sprint or if it's long distance.
Jackson. I don't think it matters if it's a sprint or a long distance. I think Uncle Mike's got me beat, hands down. He's Michael Phelps, and I'm not. So there you go.
Yeah, I went swimming today. I went swimming today this morning, Jack.
Did you? How'd you do?
90 laps,
Goodness.
a mile and a quarter.
Maybe you're
Gosh.
near Bobby Fink or Tori Husk or Katie Ledecky kind of range for
Exactly.
depending on how your laps went.
Yeah, you can call me Katie for now. That'd be fine.
There you go. We'll have to schedule a race in the near future. Mike versus Lineberger, the race of the century.
Yeah.
All right, Jack.
Mike makes it a mile and a half and make it a lap and a half. There you
There
go.
you go. There you go.
I like it. I like
different
it.
distances.
All right, guys. Great way to wrap up the show. As expected, than it was last week. But Mike, BL Lumber, Blake, great to have you on. As always, we'll catch up with you guys again next week, and we will talk to you soon. I'm Dexter Durkee, this is Good Guy Sports, and we're signing off. Have a great day, everybody, and weekend, and we will talk to you guys same place, same time next week.
Great. Thanks,
See you,
Jackson.
Jack.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Blake. Thanks, Blake.
See you guys.
Bye.